Democratic Alliance, as the official opposition party in the country, has outlined and listed the worst performing ministers in President Cyril Ramaphosa's cabinet. This is at the back of the performance agreements which were signed in 2020. I'm joined by the leader of the party. John, thank you so much for your time. Now, it was interesting to see who you've assessed as the worst performing minister. Before we go into that, I just want to find out how you were able to compile this kind of information. How did you get to this assessment?
So what we did is we took the performance agreements that were signed in October 2020. We removed a lot of the subjective, qualitative things of assessment, where it became a judgment call of political, and focused on the quantitative assessments where specific targets were met, and then actually went backwards and saw whether those had in fact been met. And it came out to the fact that of the 757 quantitative targets we were able to determine, the state only was able to get 241 of those right or achieved, which gives them a score of 32%. I think this is important information ahead of the motion of no confidence next week, precisely because we're basing our assessment of the cabinet on the contracts that they themselves signed with the president.
It was an interesting press briefing that you just held, and one of the questions were then, how are you able to objectively assess the ministers, given the fact that you are the official opposition party, you do want to take over governance in future? How were you able to look at this objectively?
Well, as I said, we removed all of the metrics where it was, deliver a report or get this right, without an absolute qualitative target that we would then be able to, a quantitative target that we'd be able to go and measure specifically. So where they were told by such a to achieve 24%, and they haven't achieved that. So we've removed, I think, a lot of the political subjectivity, because we do want to have an honest assessment of these performance agreements. I think it is right that the opposition party does this in Parliament, because it's part of our responsibility holding the President accountable. It took him almost 17 months to 2 years to get these things in place after he initially promised them. Now they're signed. They appear to be gathering dust at the union buildings, because very clearly ministers are not performing. There's been very little intervention in those departments.
All right, thank you so much for your time. The leader of the official opposition party, John Steenhuisen, in Parliament, as they outline the performance of ministers in President Cyril Ramaphosa's cabinet. And the clock is ticking then to the 30th of March next week, when that motion of no confidence will be heard at the Good Hope Chamber here in Parliament. Of course, the National Assembly burning down means that the business of Parliament is done at the Good Hope Chamber. And what will also take place on that same day, on the 30th, is that motion of no confidence in President Cyril Ramaphosa that was filed and tabled by the ATM. So both of those motions will take place on the 30th next week here in Parliament. For Newzroom Afrika on channel 405, I'm Tim Tongana in Parliament.